Hello, my name is Tom Wilson. I'm the author of Next Stage and the host of this series called How to Create the Life You Want. As we've been going through each of the sessions, we've been focusing on different elements related to how we build the next stage of our life. And hopefully, you've been doing some of the exercises, some of the activities, and you've gained some particular insights or some interest in those things that you have found of particular importance. So, today's session is going to be putting those pieces together into an action plan, call it a master plan that you can use then to looking at guiding yourself in doing the things that you need to do more of, less of, or differently. We'll spend some time talking about what a plan looks like, and then I'm going to ask you to take out a piece of paper, work these worksheets, and do some of the activities and exercises that would hopefully, at the end, give you a sense of direction and focus to what you need to be doing differently. Because one often says, if you always do what you've always done, you'll not get what you've always gotten. The world's changing, your body's changing, the things in your life is changing. So it's time to make some adjustments that will allow you to really use this time, this next 10, 20, 30 years to its best possible outcome for you. Great. Session 7, hope in the right place. As I said, throughout these last six sessions in this series, we've been dealing with different points, and that these questions are really intended to look at different aspects of your life as you're transitioning from where it's focused on work and family and doing many things in everyday life to where your life is now more open or more broad or more, frankly, to be determined. But there's certain aspects of things you want to do to make sure that you live responsibly. Remember, we've talked about that sense of time, like what are you doing with your time? And the sense of purpose that guides you in terms of how you use that time in a way that enriches you and provides meaning. And from that meaning comes happiness. Will you have enough money? Remember, we talk a lot about the financial security, your income and expenses, and what that might need to be in order to be able to live in a way that you feel comfortable. And frankly, your concerns about money drops to the background. Who you live with is obviously not just about the individual, but about the community around you. And remember that those array of relationships that you have. As you look at them, the important thing is not putting people into boxes, but asking yourself, how do you feel about that? What do you might need to change in relationship to those? Being healthy, we identify the importance of a number of healthy habits around diet, exercise, and doing something for yourself that helps you to do those things that will make you a little bit healthier for both now and in the future. And finally, we talked about identity. So who are you going to be? What's the kind of character is this? How do you characterize yourself? How do you describe yourself to someone who wants to know what do you do? And then how do you adjust your lifestyle in order to kind of fit with that particular vision of yourself? So today's session is going to be a work plan, and it's going to be more planning. And it's taking the elements that we've had, each of those pieces, and begin to consolidate them into some areas of focus. So let's get started. Now, a master plan is something that should help you integrate all the key aspects that are changing in your life. It should keep you excited. It gives you something to look forward to. It gives you things to do, but the things you do, it will help you build the life that you're looking for. It should give you a pathway forward. A plan should work for you. And then you can be as simple as a bucket list to as complex as a personal strategic plan, multiple pages or whatever. The level of detail and the thoroughness is really up to you. I mean, after all, this plan is for you. Remember, one thing we learned about this particular stage of time of life is that we're no longer looking for the approval of others. So this needs to be something that is you define how important it is, and you assess its importance, because this is for you. But don't sell yourself short here. Don't do just a little because no one's telling you to do more. This is a time to challenge yourself, to begin to look at what you need to be doing that will be important for guiding you forward. And this plan will have a number of different interesting components to it. It should be clear and compelling. In other words, it kind of says, yes, what I'm doing here is going to be important. It should be as comprehensive as you need. You don't have to focus on everything. Be simple, but be bold. Do both. It should help. Helpful is when you review this, discuss this, is you then ask for help and you get feedback and guidance from others. And they may be important where, like we talk about a financial planner, or it may someone, a physician or somebody who's a health specialist. Someone's going to be holistically looking at your health. You know, it's important to ask for feedback and get guidance and to integrate that into your plan. And then the end is that you're making a commitment to yourself. I mean, this is for and by you. At its core, your plan should enable you to focus on those things that you want to do more of, less of, differently, or to retain doing because you want to or you have to. You know, before we go into developing a master plan, there's something that that many have found to be very important. You know, there are studies out there about the stages of feelings one experiences when they go through major changes in life. I modify one of them that I felt captures what were really important in this stage of our life. So let's look at this journey. Let's start from the point that you're leaving your job, your career, or your professional activities. You may come on it slowly, or it may be sudden. It may be something that you chose to do or was chosen for you. What you are likely experiencing and likely to think about in going forward, this journey, this story will be different. Your particular story will be different from what I'll describe here, but maybe there's certain elements that will help you give a sense of where you are and what's next and what's coming. And that, in a sense, gives you a sense of guidance and comfort in knowing that what you're experiencing now, if it's positive, it may change. If it's negative, it won't last that long. You know, the first thing that people, when they leave an organization, leave their career, perhaps spending 10, 20, 30 years, is a sense of release. Wow, you're done. There's a great sense of release and excitement about what lies ahead. And for many, they just can't wait to get started. And then there's a uh-oh period. It says, oh my God, maybe it's a few days, maybe it's a few weeks, maybe it's a couple of months, maybe you've done a bunch of stuff, and then you realize it said, oh my God, what have I done? You missed the old routine, regardless of how stressful or painful it was, and you want to find that again. So there's this sense of resistance to your new state, and you want to go back and see if you can reclaim what you had before. You found that next thing. Let's say you went and got another job just like the old one, but somehow different. Maybe better, and it may turn out not to be. But the point is that all of a sudden you sort of go, whoa, I'm going to recapture that, what I was used to be doing, because that's what it was like. But then something starts to happen. You do that for a little while, and then there's a revelation that appears. Why are you still doing this? You ask yourself, I don't need to do this anymore. What is this about? Why did I get myself back into this stuff? I don't need that. Wow, you know, I really can do things differently. And what people have found is that when they go through this revelation process, they begin to rethink and begin to restructure their life. They don't need that commute. They don't need those meetings. They don't need that kind of work. There's some elements that they do want, they would like to keep, but there's something different is happening. You leave that old role. You figure out that something's different and that there's something better and more aligned with what you really want. So by understanding the restructuring, you're saying, I don't need that anymore, but what I do want, because you start to say, look forward to something, there's a sense of putting action together, and it feels like you're taking a risk. It feels like you're jumping off the cliff. It feels like you're, oh my God, here it goes. You're whatever it is. The step is a feeling like there is real change happening. and there's no going back. But something inside of you says that's okay because you're moving forward and you're working on it. And you know what? It's feeling better than it was before. You've gained some wisdom from this little journey to help you build something that is renewing. You found it. This is what you wanted to do. This is what you wanted to be. This is a sense of revelation and renewal. And I'll do this for a while. So, where are you in this process of transformation? Are you going, where are you? Have you experienced some of these stages to this point in time in your life? What lies ahead? So as we begin to understand that context for our planning, let's take a look at some planning time. So what we're going to do, I'll give you kind of an overview. Take out a note paper and something to capture your notes, as I'm going to walk you through a series of questions. Right now, I'm just going to tell you where we're going, and then we're going to go into some more detail. But this is a time for you to develop that plan and those priorities. And I'll give you some time to answer them during our sessions today and offer some and allow you to begin to capture some notes for yourself. You may need to follow up after this with someone else or with yourself, because we won't have time to do all the things, all the questions here, but at least we'll get you started. So this will be an important homework assignment following these sessions. Our steps are going to include these things. First of all, define a time frame for yourself. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And then we begin to look back on the things that we've been discussing over the last series, throughout the series, our purpose, our finances, etc., and begin to identify what you want to work on in each of those areas. It's important to sort of identify things to improve or to do differently. And then you'll go through a process of selecting one, if you will, and pick out 1 or 2 or 3 areas that you really want to focus on. That says maybe just not 1, maybe there'll be 3 or 4, but keep the list short because it's important to really begin to allow you to focus. Then you begin to identify within each of those areas, if you identify those priorities, what are the actions that are needed? And then you need to begin to look at, okay, this is what I have to do. So I need to ask, what is necessary for me to be successful? So what am I going to need in order to make that work? So it's not just about effort. Maybe it is. You need some counseling or some assistance or some training or some, whatever it might be, what's necessary. And you begin to identify points of milestones. And milestones are important because they're like your scoreboard, or your dashboard. It helps you get a sense of how well you're progressing and monitoring. And finally, you have to get started and give you commitment to yourself. So that's what we're going to be going through over the next few minutes as we think about your master plan and moving forward. And once again, you can keep in as much detail as you want, but people have found who work through this process find that they have a plan that is very simple, but very powerful. So let's take that first question. What's your time frame? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, longer? If you're thinking about just starting this, then maybe it's a 3-year time frame, or you're pretty comfortable where you're at right now, things are moving. You can begin to think, I want to plan this out over the next 5 years. In other words, what I'm going to be doing over the next 5 years. Okay, now take a look at the worksheets and the activities we did for each of those 5 areas. Do you remember those? So I want you to think about those, and within each of those areas on a sheet of paper, something similar to what you see here, I want you to figure out what you want to do different in each of those areas. What is it that you want to prove or to identify or to resolve? It could, if it's going great with you right now, then you say, I want to retain what I'm experiencing here. I want to keep this. I want to keep these relationships or my healthy habits or my financial conditions. I want to keep it. I want to keep it going. Or I want to change it. I want to do some things differently. So kind of highlight what that is. So I'll give you a few minutes now, a minute. So to take a look at that, what are the things you want to do in each of those areas in this over the next 3 years or 5 years, the time frame that you picked up? What do you want to do that's different? while you're working on this, I'll give you a couple of examples. One of the people in my workshops, Carol, has a special needs child. And one of the things that's important is she wants to prepare a plan for his continuing to care, for his continuing care as she heads into a retirement and to her later stages of life. So it's very important for her to have the resources and a plan for his continuing care. In terms of relationships, Richard wants to build a strong group of male friends. He's been relying on his wife for all these number of years to take care of the relationships. And he wants to say, no, I want to find male friends. And so he's going to start taking initiatives that will start creating relationships with other guys. Toby wants to stop participating in some programs that she no longer feels make any sense. Things that both she's uncomfortable and the person she's working with is uncomfortable. And why work at something where it's really uncomfortable? Where on the other hand, there's some other things she is engaged in, which she loves. It's still volunteering, and she's going to do some things in the other area. So she might want to be looking at some things of shifting how she spends her time in her volunteer work. Now, you may not be completed with this, but you at least get an idea of where we're going. Take a note a minute and flag the ones that you think are the most important over the next 1 to 3 years. What's the most important for you? Pick the one or two. This process, if you understand, we're kind of starting with a lot of information, a lot of stuff, and beginning to narrow it down to priorities, and into actions and plans. So let's take a look at the next stage. Here, I want you for one of those areas. Now, you may end up doing this 2 or 3 times, but establish a goal or define a task or identify the desired outcome for 1 or 2 of these priority areas. You may have 2 or 3 or 4, it's okay. But which ones do you want to really do? So establish a goal or define a task or really identify something that you want to get to, an outcome you want to achieve. You know, one of the people in my sessions, his name is Ted, he wanted to identify an organization that is really effective at dealing with immigration justice issues. That's what he was really concerned about. He wanted where he could travel and work with others, and he could use his incredible leadership skills to benefit the mission of the organization. So that was one of the things that he was going to do, is look for an organization in immigration justice that really could utilize his skills and enable him to travel and to work with others. So the next thing to do is to list the actions that you need to take to realize this goal. Okay, so you want to do that. So Ted wants to find his organizations. What are the things he has to do to get there, to accomplish that? What are the things that Carol needs to do in order to set up that plan? So beginning to list the actions that you need to take in order to get there. This could be easy. It could be difficult. This may take a lot of time. You may have to go talk to some people because you may not know quite how to do that. Ultimately, you will come back to the issue of identifying, 3 to 5 to 7 or 10, whatever the number is, of actions that you need to take to realize this goal, to achieve this outcome. This is what the things you need to do that will bring this outcome, this thing you want to do, into reality. Okay, now you know what you want to accomplish. You know how you're going to go about doing it. What is needed to be successful? What obstacles are you likely to encounter as you go through this process? So here is really looking at anticipating what's needed to do this. Do you have the skills? Do you have the money? Do you have the time? Do you have the friends? Do you have the networks? Do you have the whatever? What obstacles are you likely to encounter when you go through this, as you pursue this? What are those obstacles? They may be resistance of other people. It could be your own financial requirements. So maybe take a little creative financing, if you will, or your own fear and apprehension about something that's so bold and so different. It's okay to put down your own personal, emotional obstacle, if it is, Or maybe it's the thing that fear is actually flipped the other side. It's excitement. It's, you really want to do it, even though it's outside of your comfort zone. And you think, gosh, what would they think? What are those things that are needed to be successful? And also identify what kind of obstacles are you likely to encounter. So it's kind of your journey, what you anticipate your journey to be. So if you look at this stuff and you look at this plan and you got this, so you have an idea where you want to go, and you're talking about, the 3 years or 5 years, whatever time frame. What are your milestones? How will you monitor and adjust and really reinforce? Meaning, yes, I'm making progress. This is cool. I'm making this work. So here you're looking at what are the milestones? What are the things when you get to this point, or that point, or this point, or that point, you've accomplished it. For example, Ted may say he's identified an organization and he's gone through some due diligence and he's met with some people who are on their board. Once you've done those things, those are really critical milestones. Excuse me. So you want to look at what are those things that are likely to realize to you you're making progress on that end result. And when you do those things, it will say, wow, I'm ready. So this is now the heart of your plan. You identified a time frame. You've identified some things you want to do. You've identified the priorities within that. And for each of those areas, you define your outcomes, your goals, your tasks. You've looked at the actions you need to take, the resources you need to be successful, the obstacles you're likely to encounter and what you're going to do about them, and the milestones that the ways of tracking how well you're progressing. Simply said, these are the most critical elements of a plan. There's more you could do. In my book, I do talk about other things, but for this case, for our simple activity today, sit back and look at what you've written. Take this time and reflect on what it is you have described here. Because the next task is for you to make a commitment to yourself. The work you've done so far needs to be real and important to you. And as I mentioned, your plan is your commitment to yourself. You don't have to promise this to anybody else. It's helpful to share with other people because they can kind of keep you honest, may keep you on track. But fundamentally, this is yours. In that light, it's time to write yourself a letter. Yes, a letter to yourself about what you intend to do and why this is important. So here is that space. If you just say, dear me, or whatever you call yourself, and then say to yourself, why am I doing this? Describe briefly what it is that you want to do and why. And then highlight any sort of key milestones or things that you think that are important to remember about your plan. Note why these are important to you. Keep coming back to why it's important and what would need to be different or better for you if you were successful. In other words, if you really did do this, what would the benefit to you be? What would the value be for you? Write yourself a letter. It's a narrative. Then I want you to sign it. I put a date on the letter. And this is your commitment to yourself. Read this and share it with someone you trust, someone who is interested in your success as much as you are in your own success. In one of my recent workshops, several participants decided what they were going to do with their letters is mail them to themselves in about 2 to 3 months. So they put the letter, they put an envelope, they sealed the envelope, they put a date on the envelope, and they wrote a letter. They wrote out, this would be to them with a stamp on it and everything else. And they said, okay, on March 15th or November 3rd, whatever it is, November, whatever, I'm going to mail this to myself. And so when the date came around, they found the envelope, put it in the mail. A few days later, they got this letter to themselves, from themselves, about their commitment, the changes they're making. Now, it's kind of clever. It may not be something you want to do, but it's important at this point in time that as you look at making changes that are there to improve your life, this next stage of your life, that you are making a commitment to yourself and to no others, but to you are important enough to make that commitment. This letter could be a useful reminder about why you're asking yourself to do what you want. So I'll leave you with these thoughts and perspective. The future is now. Now is the time to make the changes you want, continue doing the things that are important to you, and let go of the things that are not. The last chapter of my book is called Holding On and Letting Go. And it's about that time and that process of saying, these are the things I want to hold dear to myself, and these are the things I can let go. You know something? Time is not on your side. You are closer to the end of life's journey than to the beginning. So if not now, when? This is a time for you to discover what is engaging and meaningful. Now is the time to create the life you want. And you have really the ultimate response and ability, or the responsibility, to make it so. I'm going to close with another favorite quote of mine. It's from a guy that lived in Concord, Massachusetts, where I live now, a long time ago. His name was Henry David Thoreau. Life isn't about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself. So live the life you've imagined. Thank you, Henry David Thoreau. And thank you for attending these sessions. Here's my email. So as you go through this journey, as you go back and finish up the homework, as we've covered in these last 7 sessions, and you want to share things with me, shoot me an email. I would love to hear from you. As I say, you can visit my website, which is at mynextstage.org. I have a blog there. You can post some things. I'll be doing posting from time to time. I really like having these kinds of sessions. So if you have any questions or concerns, or frankly, ideas and suggestions to share with me, please do contact me. I'm very interested in. I'll get back to you. It may not be immediate. I will get back to you. I will respond. I really appreciate you taking the time to share and communicate with me. If you'd like to participate in a workshop, so I'm considering developing one where we can take basically this outline we've been doing these last 7 sessions, but go in a lot more detail and a lot more engaging as a conversation, and you'd be working with other people to make it so. So if that's something you want to do, I don't have anything scheduled yet, but I might. And so I'd be curious, send me a note, let me know. And I'll put you on the list for an invitation. And finally, if you belong to an organization or know one that would like me to present, I would love to work with you to do this. I love working with groups and presenting the ideas that we've discussed in the situation. Again, send me an email and we can work on the specifics. So I want to close by saying thank you. I'm glad that you have attended these sessions. I hope you have found something important and meaningful to each one. It's been a pleasure for me to share my thoughts and ideas and my slideshows with you. I spent a lot of time working on this, and it's something I'm very proud of. I do think that the important messages are really clear. See, time is not on our side, and yet we have the next 20 to 30 years to do the things that we want to do in our life to give a sense of we've lived the life that we've lived the life that we want. You know, and earlier in my early sessions, I made a statement that says, we want to, at that point in time when we're looking back on our life, I want you to feel like you look back on your own life, you says it was one that was well lived, that accomplished what I wanted. And those things I didn't do, well, so be it. It is a time of real change. It's a time for real reflection. And it's a time for real opportunity. It's the time to create the things that you want and to let go of the things that no longer matter. And that's probably what's most unique about this stage of life. And that is we have a culmination of years of experience and talent and skills and wants. And there's some things that we want to do before we're done. And so this is the time to do that. I hope these sessions, this work, these worksheets, these activities, these hints, these ideas, this stuff that we've been covering the last 7 sessions is something you'll find really helpful and meaningful to you. As I said, let me know, because I'm always interested to hear what people are doing, what they're experiencing. I'll get back to you quickly as I can. I've got a lot of things I'm doing, as you can tell myself, But this is my next stage, and this is your next stage. And I hope you make the most of the stage, because after all, our objective here is to create the life that we want. Thank you again. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And more importantly, I hope you have a wonderful life, because that's what it's all about. You take care and be well. Bye-bye.